to another episode of The Amanda Hill Show. Hello, beautiful soul. Thank you for welcoming me into your day. I know that this conversation is going to be so helpful at the time of recording. It's a couple of weeks out from Christmas, but I also know that some of these tips apply any time of the year. But what we find ourselves in is festive season, also known as boundary season. This is when our boundaries get put to the test, or we have a new awareness developed that we are really needing some boundaries. Yes, this is where it all happens. So, first of all, whenever I talk about boundaries, what I like to mention is that this comes from someone who really was at the opposite end of the scale of like not knowing how to speak up for myself. I had chronic fatigue for about 5 years through my late teens. And this was really a result of me not being able to say no, not being able to communicate my needs, and then my body responding to that. Our body is always speaking to us. At the time, I thought my body was always against me and always failing me, and now I know so deeply that my body was speaking to me in signs and symptoms. So things like headaches, major anxiety, panic attacks. These were part of my day, part of my week, big crashes. So I'd be like doing lots of things, and then I'd crash and have to spend a few days in bed, and that cycle was like ever repeating. When I started practicing boundaries, communicating my truth, and really implementing joy into all aspects of my life, becoming a bit more selfish, to be honest, is when my health really thrived. So when that natural desire that I have to give was balanced with really crystal clear boundaries, this is me at my best. This is me thriving. So it's something that I've been learning and practicing, and I'm still learning and practicing for many years now, but I've come such a long way, and I'm in what I believe is a really fantastic position to share with you, because I do have that lens of and that empathy for how hard it can be. And I'm also going to call you into really taking responsibility and owning that you are the creator of your life. So if there's ways of being that are no longer working, it's time to look at those and reshuffle and choose again. And if you've already got some boundaries in place this festive season, this conversation just might support you in going, yeah, good idea, you're doing awesome, keep it up, basically. If you really struggle with boundaries, and as I share these boundaries, you go, yeah, cool, great, but I still can't even get off the starting blocks, or you like where I'm going, you like how I speak about boundaries, and you want to know more and you want to be more supported, I have an online course. It's self-paced. It's called Boundaries Are Beautiful. It's available on my website, www.amandahill.com.au. You'll see it within shop and courses. It's self-paced, and it can really support you ongoing. And we really dive much deeper than what I can go into in a podcast around, things that hold us back, how to move through that, how to work through the guilt. There's just it's my treasure trove basically of tips and tricks. So I highly recommend that, and I also recommend it if boundaries are present for you at the moment, because when we're in it, when something's challenging, when something's in our face, it's actually like the best time to practice it. Like boundaries are not, like there's theory that I walk you through within that boundaries course, but it's also all about putting yourself in the ring, giving it a go. So festive season is actually an awesome time of year to dive into this and to sort of dial up the support and create a new reality for yourself, a new story where you go, yeah, I set boundaries, like I'm really good at it, like that's just so possible and so exciting for me still to be able to say that, given where I came from around that. So I just want to hold that, I guess, beacon of what's possible if it's something that you do struggle with. Okay, so that's there on my website to support you if you need, if you like. Let's get into 5 boundaries to support you this festive season. These are ones that are on my radar, that I thought I'd just share. Water break here. Number 1, social media. No surprises here. Something to consider. Okay, so generally the festive season is a more social time of year. What's in the word social media? Social is part of that. This was like a light bulb moment for me where I was like, it's called social media. It's for when we feel like being social. It was like a real penny drop moment for me. Something to keep in mind, because if you feel like in the reels, in the flesh, there's enough socializing happening, maybe dialing down on the social media, and then you'll be able to keep up with and enjoy your in-the-person social events, and you'll be able to implement more downtime. Yeah, makes sense. It all comes back to really knowing yourself. So there's like no rules here. You make up the rules depending on where your energy is at. You might be someone that's really extroverted and COVID was really hard. You didn't have as much connection, and that's what really lights you up. And so this time of year, you're like thriving because you're going, I've got all these social events. I'm still happy connecting on my social media. It's feeling really good for me. Go for it. But if you are someone who maybe enjoyed more space during COVID, and now all the social events are happening and that's a bit anxiety inducing, maybe now look into your relationship with social media. Can you put some boundaries in place there that will support you? Now, I go through this way more in Boundaries Are Beautiful, but a little tip. I really recommend allowing yourself to tune into what would support me this week. Because something that can hold us back is like, okay, I'm like going to have all these boundaries around social media like indefinitely. And that leads us to then sort of throw it all out the window when our energy changes. So think about going into this week that you're in as you're listening. What have you got happening in your world? What's your relationship to technology and to social media feeling like? What's one boundary you could put in place with social media that would really support you? Only you will know the answer for that. My boundaries with social media are always changing because I'm always changing. So at the start of last week, I asked myself this question, what boundary for social media would feel really good this week? And it was not going on social media until midday. And that was just what I was called to that week. It allowed me to have really spacious mornings and cook and, just be in my life, and then, check in at midday. So, as I said, there's no rules, there's no right or wrong. Tune into what's a boundary that would feel good for me. It might be just turning your phone off at 9 or 10 p.m. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Actually go for a really small change if you haven't normally had boundaries or you've got a lot on your plate. Don't overload yourself. Just go with something small. And I always say it's the small things that are the big things. The smallest change could have a massive effect on your week. The other point that I'll mention here social media, when it's in an addictive nature, is actually a coping mechanism. It's a distraction, right? It's like watching TV, or eating, emotionally eating. So if Christmas is a really stressful time for you, if it feels like quite traumatic for you, or it's not an enjoyable time, maybe allowing yourself more time on social media is actually a coping mechanism for you that you can allow yourself. Interesting, hey? Interesting. I just wanted to bring that into the conversation. If you are feeling stressed about Christmas, if it's overwhelming for you, if social media is a way for you to connect with people that get you, if it's a way for you to distract yourself, maybe that's okay, hey? And then maybe when you have the capacity for it, it's getting help and support with whatever stress or trauma you're experiencing around Christmas time. But at this point in time, if you doing your best is spending more time online, or that's more supportive for you to get through it, maybe that's okay. Interesting. That's for someone listening in. I just felt called to share that. If you are wanting to tighten things up, just ask yourself, what boundary with social media would support me this week? At the end of the week, reassess, reflect, allow yourself to ask that question from a clean slate and see what arises. Number 2. Okay, I saw this quote on just like an Instagram meme, and it was Christmas comebacks. And one of them said, "What I'm doing is working great for me at the moment. Thanks though." Holy shit, was I saving that post or what? Going into Christmas as a new mama, this line will be getting a workout. The unsolicited advice at the gatherings. What I'm doing is working great for me at the moment. Thanks though. I just wanted to give you that one, pass that on in case that helps you. We don't have to justify or explain our choices to anyone. Okay, number 3. I've been really consciously looking at my December and wanting to keep it really spacious, really doable for me as a new mama, considering there hasn't been much socializing throughout this year, and that's been really supportive for me as a new mum. So going into December, I'm really looking at, okay, how can this time of year feel amazing for my family and for me? And there's actually, when I look at my December, like there's already enough happening. And you know, each thing there, I'm like, yep, looking forward to that, like going to that, you know. And so it already feels kind of full. I know there will be some spontaneous things that happen, but I'm really conscious and aware. I'm like, there's actually already enough happening, like socially for me. And you know, I'm recording this a couple of weeks into December. So I've been mentioning to friends that have asked to catch up, or I feel like I want to catch up with. I've said, I'd love to catch up. How about in January or Feb when things quieten down? Because genuinely I want to catch up with these people, but I'm just looking at December going, hey, it's already kind of full at my capacity. Someone else would look at it and go, shit, she's got like nothing on. But me, less is more. And I find if I'm doing less, I can really enjoy the things that I've said yes to. Okay, number 4, and this is particularly for those of you who run a business online, but relevant for all of us, actually having time off. So especially for you, if you run a business that is social media, or email based, asking yourself, how can I give myself some time off? Is that a day? Is that a weekend? Is that a couple of weeks? Like time off social media, time off emails, time off anything work related, if that feels good for you. So actually having time off, what does that look like for you? What is a boundary that's going to support you coming back fresh for 2021, feeling as though you've had a break, you know, a full break, coming in with fresh eyes, feeling refreshed. And my last one of boundaries to support you this festive season is menstrual cycle awareness, if you have that practice. This is the time to really use it. I say this is the time, it's always the time. But this is a real secret weapon in the festive season. So perhaps even getting off this episode now, if you haven't already, and just looking at the calendar, looking at if you've got a regular cycle, when that's rolling. If it's irregular, looking at how you'll be able to move with that. But yeah, just really being conscious of leveraging those strengths, putting things in place for where you know your weaknesses in your cycle, your vulnerabilities, Yeah, I really do think that's a secret weapon at this time of year. So knowing that although this time of year might be more social, that doesn't mean that, you know, you have to put to the side what your rhythm is. You know, what are the things on your calendar that are non-negotiable, unchangeable? What are the things that are movable? How can you leverage that? How can you maximize it depending on where you're at in your cycle? This is something that can take, you know, 5 or 10 minutes to do as well. You know, just looking, synchronizing those calendars, the social calendar with your menstrual cycle as best you can, you know. Factoring in what sort of self-care do I like at that time. I've got more social things there. What sort of self-care needs to happen there? Like, almost, yeah, I think having a plan at this time of year does provide support. Okay, so there we have it. 5 boundaries to support you this festive season. I hope this conversation was very helpful for you. I'm wishing you a beautiful break, and I can't wait to be with you in the new year. All right. Mwah.